the Soyuz MS-21 that carried the cosmonaut trio, including Oleg Artemyev, Denis Matveyev, and Sergei Korsakov, and of course the cargo spacecraft on the aft or back portion of the International Space Station is Progress 81, and on the zenith or space-facing side, Progress 80, both that brought cargo and fuel to the International Space Station. You see CRS-25, once docked later this morning, will take the forward end of the International Space Station. It's scheduled to stay for about a month. And Cargo Dragon, of course, has the ability to return to Earth, equipped with a heat shield to splash down off the coast of Florida, be recovered, and take valuable science back to some of the researchers on Earth. CRS-25 crossing the terminator line. So again, you'll start seeing the illumination of the spacecraft and the Earth behind it start to get a little dimmer as we pass over the western region of China. And we'll be heading on a northeastern track to cross into Mongolia pretty shortly. By the time we get to Mongolia, expect to have fairly dark views of the spacecraft. But with those darker views come the illumination of some of the navigation lights on board the spacecraft. You can see the docking light blinking at the center of the spacecraft, but you can see the navigation light, the port red light coming up a little bit more clearly. There's going to be a green light on the starboard side that will start to be shown a little bit more clearly once we have a orbital sunset. You can see the sun still illuminating the starboard side of the spacecraft. Back with you with live views of the inside of the International Space Station control room. Again, these teams led by Flight Director Allison Bollinger. On the phone there in the background is Michael Ellsworth. He'll be that'll be his voice that you hear from here in Mission Control Houston up to the crew. It'll be Bob Hines and Jessica Watkins that you'll be hearing respond from the International Space Station as they take the prime duties of monitoring Dragon's approach to the International Space Station. The teams here, this room being operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to oversee the orbiting complex as it orbits 16 times a day. The teams here overseeing the rendezvous operations of CRS-25. Again, we're in joint operations right now, so the teams here working with the same flight rules with the Dragon flight controllers over in Hawthorne, California. Bollinger now polling the teams here in Mission Control Houston for the next burn. Approach 0. So this is a burn that's executed once we reach that waypoint. The waypoint 0 is directly below what's called the R bar. When looking at the International Space Station, it's a line that goes pretty much straight through it, straight down to the Earth. So once we reach that point, directly underneath that approach 0 burn, will execute the maneuver to effectively swing the spacecraft out in front of the International Space Station to line up with the docking axis. Now, regaining some views from the International Space Station. Again, you see those views starting to get a little bit darker, that Terminator line coming in a lot clearer, with the spacecraft only 1,300 meters. That's a little over a kilometer away from the International Space Station at this time. You can see it's still pretty high up, so it's still catching some of that illumination from the sun, which is actively setting as we cross into an orbital nighttime. We also did get confirmation that the Dragon spacecraft itself did successfully execute an approach mid-course maneuver. This is sort of a correction burn to once the approach initiation burn is executed to get us to that waypoint 0. The approach mid-course just helps us along the way, making sure that we rendezvous with that point as expected. With a good burn, we're expecting to hit that waypoint in about 18 minutes.
आप क्या करेंगे? आप क्या बदलाव लाएंगे? क्या आप कुछ बेहतर करेंगे? क्या आप पूरी तरह से कुछ नया बनाएंगे? हमारे डेल टेक्नोलॉजी सलाहकार आपको लाजवाब चीजें करने के लिए जरूरी उपकरण और विशेषज्ञता उपलब्ध करवाते हैं, क्योंकि हमारा मानना है कि हम सब में है कुछ नया करने का हुनर।
हर पेड़ की 2 शाख पे फल आते हैं, उसके बाद तीसरी शाख बेकार होती है।
बड़े भैया की झपटेंगे तो ऐसा ही होगा ना।
उसको तीसरी शाख का कंडुआ कहते हैं।
So you know who you are.
So you can see the camera start to really change as we get more illumination on the spacecraft itself. The cameras themselves are controlled from a console here in Mission Control Houston. That position is called Cronus. They have full autonomy over the control of the cameras on the outside of the International Space Station, able to adjust the zoom, the focus, the exposure. So they're working right now to do exactly what you're seeing here, to zoom in, focus focus on the spacecraft a little bit more, and change the exposure so we can see the spacecraft and those plumes coming from the Draco's thrusters a little bit clearer.
साहिल पैसे लेके भाग गया है। आपका बेटा ना किसी का नहीं है।
The Dragon cargo craft, about 312 meters from the International Space Station. It really doesn't change in distance as it makes this maneuver from below the International Space Station to right in front. It really hugs the outside of what's called the keep out sphere, which is roughly 180 to 200 meters away from the International Space Station. So it maintains that distance as it goes in front. But as it makes this maneuver, the timing here could not be more perfect. We're about a little more than halfway from below the space stations to right in front. So if you were looking at a clock, we'd be somewhere around 7 or 8 o'clock. And we're getting that just happens to line up perfectly with an orbital sunrise over the southern Pacific Ocean. Everything looking good. The teams now are on a go no go poll for proceeding past waypoint 1 and executing the approach 1 burn. So this means when it's right in front of the International Space Station, really right along the docking access, if we get that go, they'll go ahead and proceed with initiating those thrusters. There's no need to pause at that waypoint. The waypoint is roughly 220 meters directly in front of the International Space Station. That go is really also a go to proceed past waypoint 1 and cross into the keep out sphere. Again, that poll is underway. Dragon's approach continues to look good. We're a little over 300 meters from the International Space Station, just taking in some pressure on the forward end of the International Space Station. We are making some great progress, so we're still targeting 10:13 a.m. Central Time to make contact.
For Block Bravo, range is 299. Vehicle is approaching the corridor. Orientation is as expected.
Houston copies, concurs with all.
That is the voice of Jessica Watkins from on board the International Space Station. Again, she's working with Bob Hines, the two of them monitoring Dragon's approach, reporting great trajectory for the Dragon spacecraft. It is well on its way towards what's called the approach corridor. It's a cone-shaped range, really, that's in front of the International Space Station, and it sets the stage for Dragon making its approach. It's still on its way to waypoint 1. We got about 7.5 minutes until it makes it to there. We'll execute that approach 1 burn to push slowly in. The range rate is very slow at this point. You can see it's making very methodical approach to that point. We're at about 0.09 meters per second, but everything is looking good.
What will you do? What will you change? Will you
from the mission director out in Hawthorne, California, that the teams there at SpaceX are also go. Again, Allison Bollinger here in Mission Control Houston, polling her team to make sure that the Mission Control team here in Houston is go. That poll being conducted ahead of the Waypoint 2 arrival, which is expected 2 minutes from now. As long as everything looks good, we won't be holding at Waypoint 2 for long, and we'll press in for docking. With that, we got confirmation from Allison Bollinger. Houston flight is go for docking. So we'll hold at the Waypoint 2 once we get confirmation of a good hold. Don't expect to be holding there for very long before we push in for docking. That Waypoint 2 arrival is expected in about 15 seconds. We're sitting at about 23 meters. Again, that hold is at 20, and we're slowing down our range rate to about 0.15 meters per second and going down.
पहले जब बच्चे छोटे थे तो सब घर में समा जाते थे। अब या तो ये घर छोटा हो गया या बच्चे बड़े हो गए।
मुझे ना हमेशा से सूरज पे डाउट रहता है। ये जो लोग कहते हैं ना कि सुबह का बूला